I was asked to look at three problems and three opportunities. I just think, first of all, I want to mention that social prescribing is a brand. It's something we branded. What matters are the conversations that we have with people and how we activate them. Too often we treat them as passive when they're not. And that goes into leadership as well. We think we need the heroic leader charging down, when actually we talk about empowerment, where we allow someone to have the power. Actually, what we've got to be doing is allow them to discover it themselves and take control of it themselves. So it's about those conversations which are crucial. I think three issues I sort of identified. One is and we mentioned it before, I think we'll all talk about the same things, is growing inequalities. We focus on health, which we mean by illness, and we forget about well-being. And if we don't address well-being, then illness will follow. So that links into how do we engage people in the overall, as a whole person, as Nikki was saying. So that the whole inequalities is increasing, it's not diminishing. So we've got big challenges there. Stuart also mentioned silo working, and that is really quite damaging. How we have disciplines and functions that don't even talk to each other. We're still wrestling between physical health and mental health for people when there's a relationship there. We're also talking about younger and older people. Having tried to work with one part of the system with younger people, they don't seem to recognise that young people live in communities with older people. We don't recognise that young people actually will be using the services that put pressure on our health system in the future. So how we work together is pretty crucial. I think the final challenge we've got there with the problem is, of course, resource issues. Not only the scarcity of resources, whether it's finance or time, but also it's where we put those resources. So we're all talking about prevention, but nearly all our funding keeps going into acute. How can we stop the acute requirements from happening if we don't invest in prevention? And in prevention at the moment, particularly the voluntary sector, it's crumbs. We're spending crumbs on it. And that links into social prescribing as well. I think looking at opportunities, because all problems have opportunities. So I think I really believe that primary care networks are fundamental to how we're going to address this. And through primary care networks, drilling down into localities of communities. And I think we've got to be aware that primary care networks, primary care doesn't mean general practice. Primary care is the person, the family, and the community, I believe, for general practice. So how we communicate that, particularly, I know Stuart is understanding that, but some GPs don't. They think they are primary care when actually they're not. So how we address the development of primary care networks is crucial, I think, as well. I think the population health management approach, which is starting to bear fruit, is very important, because that moves beyond illness and it goes into well-being, and it goes into the determinants of health as well. So I think how we take in a locality that information and how we predict some challenges in the future, particularly with young people and families, is crucial. I think the other opportunity which is beginning to emerge is the recognition of the community. I know Catherine has mentioned that before. I think social capital, individual engagement and the volunteers is increasing it of importance. Treating people and communities as assets and not as problems. I think that's been recognised. I think we've got to sort of corral that and perhaps free it up as well, which is vital. And lastly, and Nikki mentioned this as well, is that personalisation approach, is that person-centred. And we've got to treat people as people, not patients. People aren't just their conditions, there's all sorts of other things with them. And that means, again, moving from what is the matter to you to what matters to you. And also the other saying is nothing about me without me. So it is that personalisation. How we get some of our clinicians, perhaps some of our acute
Ian,
clinicians.
I begin to interrupt you, we're well over.
Yeah, just the acute clinicians is pretty important as well, I think, to address that.